Good morning, everyone. Let's lower this a little bit. There we go, there we go. Hope everyone's having a great day. Sorry for being a tiny bit late, but I had things to do. Let's go live on Facebook. That's probably smart. Okay. Good, good, good. Oh my gosh. My device I used to hold up my phone just died on me. It says it's having an error. Oh, give me 1 second, everyone. Sorry. I apologize. Things don't always work as they should. Alright, just give me a second. This device has to be relatively balanced, otherwise it will turn off. Give me just 1 second. If you have any questions, feel free to type them in while I am dealing with tech issues. It's real life here. I thought we were set up, and then we just weren't. It's no good when you think you have everything set up and it just doesn't work. All right. You have to make sure you're balanced. That's absolutely right. Okay, good. I think we are doing this. It says we still have an error on Instagram. This could be a bit of a mess today. That's okay. My device is telling me that it's not going to hold up my phone. We may have to cut it short on Instagram today. I guess we'll see. We'll have to adjust. Speaking of adjustments, I changed the settings for my streaming program to make my sound slightly faster, I believe. So hopefully it lines up a little bit better with my voice. I changed it by 0.1 second, which may not seem like a whole lot, but it is. So let me know if that's any better. I guess I'll see myself. I shaved. It looks like I maybe cut myself. Oh boy, what a fun show, huh? All right, so today we're going to talk about adjusting. Yeah, so Instagram's not going to work. All right, what we're going to have to do today, looks like I'm going to have to hold this thing on Instagram. This is going to be a huge pain. So I'm just going to kind of sit it over here and forget about it. Adjusting. We have adjusting here. There was a poker author a while back who essentially wrote something along the lines of, once you figure out how to play well, you should never adjust. Never adjust to anything. Because you already know what you're doing. Interestingly enough, this player wrote this a while back before solvers were even invented, so this player was almost certainly playing poorly. Also, I think that's a really dumb idea, because you need to adjust to what your opponents are doing bad, and not only that, you need to experiment. You need to figure out what they're doing bad so that you can take advantage of them, right? And let's say we're playing against the player and we figure out that we can check raise them every flop and they fold. Well, in that scenario, you need to be check raising them a lot. But how would you ever know that if you never adjusted? This player referred to, or this author, not really a player, referred to it as searching. They're searching for the right play. I think he's saying that amateurs do this, but good players do it as well. Where when things are going poorly or well, you search to find better plays. This guy was saying it was a terrible idea, but in reality, it's a great idea. This is why this player is not actually a poker player, he's an author. You do not have to actually be good at poker to write books, believe it or not. So, anyway, adjusting. Dealing with my baby James. You can probably hear him out there yelling. He had been waking up very early. So why is he waking up early? Do we just keep letting him wake up early forever? Do I just assume I'm a great parent that knows everything that they are doing? No, that would be silly and asinine, right? So, clearly we need to adjust if we want him to wake up, quote-unquote, on time, and also if we want him to wake up not screaming his head off. So how do we make him not wake up screaming his head off? Maybe he's hungry, right? So we feed him a little bit later. Sure enough, he wakes up on time and he's happy. We fixed the problem. Because we were willing to adjust. In poker, if things are going poorly for you, especially if they're going poorly for you on a consistent basis, you need to adjust. Don't just sit there and lose all of your money. And if you're winning, Imagine you're winning at 3 big blinds per 100 hands. You may think that's great. We're winning at poker, right? But in reality, you could be doing way, way better. If you don't adjust and don't experiment, you will never find these things. So do not be afraid to push the boundaries. See what's happening, right? If you just only do the same thing all the time, you're never going to know if you're actually doing well. I mean, this comes up in marketing a lot too. For example, whenever you run any sort of promotion, you should often send at least 2 different emails to people. One to some portion of your list and the other to the other portion of your list, right? That way, you can see which one of those converts better. You may find that a big, long email explaining everything in your course is ideal, or you may find that just a little short snippet is ideal. Maybe you'll find a video is ideal. Whenever you're working at McDonald's making hamburgers, I know they tell you exactly what to do, but you may find that if you drop the buns in the toaster first, before you get the paper out, that works better. Or you may find you need to put the paper out first because the buns go through too fast. You know, you have to adjust, you have to experiment. And if you never experiment, you won't find what works. And usually, by the way, when you do experiment, most things are going to fail. A lot of people don't like that idea. They don't like the idea of I'm going to experiment and 90% of the things, or maybe more, that I do are not going to succeed. So you have to be okay with that. Failure is not bad. I think a lot of people think, oh, I failed, therefore I did poorly, I made a mistake. But most things you think and try are not going to work, and that's A-okay. Let's see. Thanks for these little coffee sessions. Good. You increased your aggression on the river, as I told you to do, because people fold too much, and now you're crushing 10 cent, 25 cent on Zoom. Good job. Well, you're clearly running hot. 200 big blinds per 100 hands is not attainable. But hey, you know, if you find that people just fold to river check raises way more than they should, you're just going to print money, right? You wish that I would adjust my shaving habits and stick with the beard. Well, luckily I can get a beard going in about 3 days, so it'll be back. Don't worry. It's actually a consistent issue I had as a child, as an adult, throughout my whole life, is that I have a beard that grows very fast. I'm a very hairy human. So, also the beard hair is very hard. So what happens is inevitably it'll start like cutting me right in here. And whenever I shave, I'll get razor burn because the new hairs come out and they'll prick you a little bit. And I've done many, many things to try to figure out how to shave well. This is about as good as I can get it, as good as I've gotten it so far. And we're still adjusting. We're still trying to figure it out. We've been to many professionals because it is an issue, right? When you have issues, don't just sit there and take it. Don't just realize, yep, I'm going to have a bloody neck for my whole life. That's not what you need in your life. You need to try to fix your problems so that you can live life more productively. All right, help you understand something. You're playing anonymous fast fold tables, so no reads other than the general player pool tendencies. Hooded in. Almost certainly, you're able to use a heads-up display, and you will be able to get a sample size on the players in the pool. You won't have a ton of hands, but it's something. How can you be exploited if if in your eyes, your opponents have no tendencies? Well, they do, because, like you said, you're an anonymous player pool, and players in that pool have have tendencies, right? Across the board. Maybe they fold too much on the river, like I told Louis Philippe, that, you know, people probably fold too much on the river, so you should probably be bluffing on the river, right? Maybe they do that. I don't know. Have you tried conditioning your beard? Yes, I've tried pretty much everything. Do not think that I've not tried all the obvious things. I have not put eggs in my beard or anything like this, but I have used many, many conditioners. I've used many, many things. Also, I don't really want a beard. Beards, my beards gets very itchy. What's the best way to become a millionaire from poker? Very, very easy. Very, very simple. So simple. Find a game you can beat and play it a lot. 2 things. That's all you have to do. It's not hard. No one does it because everybody wants to get rich quick. But that's the way you do it. That's the way I became a millionaire playing poker. I found games I could beat and I just grinded and grinded and grinded. I kept moving up. I played well within my bankroll. Next thing you know, you're sitting on a pile of money. How old is James? James is 21 months old. Kevin says he purchased my training through Brad's YouTube channel. Good. We did a little collaboration with Brad Owens recently. He's a great video blogger. I like his personality. A lot of video bloggers are sort of absurd. And Brad's not so absurd. He's just like a regular nice human. And I like regular nice humans. I want to reward regular nice humans, and Yeah, that's good. I like collaborating with good people. You may ask why I'm holding a phone in my hand. We normally, so I guess I can show you all this. We have this device here. This is called a gimbal. It holds the device steady. For some reason, it broke. I don't know why it broke. To be fair, it's my fault. I started this show like 1 minute late, assuming everything would work, because everything had worked for the last 2 weeks, no problems. And now it's just giving me an error code. Should probably experiment with it. I'll turn it back on to see if it gives me an error code. See these little blue lights? They were turning red and flashing. Look, why is it turning red and flashing? This means there's an error. I don't know why. Now I have to spend an hour trying to figure out this. So that's why I'm holding the. That's why I'm holding the phone. I'll put it back over here. My arm got tired. Yeah, maybe James messed it up. That is. Yeah, I'll always blame it on the baby. It's probably the baby. Maybe I could laser my face hair. No, I don't need to do that. All right. Yesterday on I guess a poker site, 7 sit-and-goes and 2 tournaments. You lost all in pre-flop flipping or better, all 9 games. You're down $50. If 2 to 3 of the hands were different, you'd be up $30. You don't have a big bankroll. What should you do? Well, listen. You have to always ask, am I producing equity? If you play with a program like Hold'em Manager, it'll tell you your equity in a lot of spots, and it'll show you a little graph. Is your graph going up, or is it going down? Louis Philippe says this is a low battery. No, those 4 bars meant it was full battery. Whatever, don't worry. Don't try to fix my problems. I'll fix my own problems. I'm very, very good at consulting Google. We have a brain out there on the internet that will literally tell you anything. Literally anything. All you have to do is know how to use it. I'm quite good at it. Well, first off, you only played 9 tournaments, right? 9 tournaments does not matter. If you say you're on a low bankroll, what is a low bankroll? Like $10? Let's say you have $10 to your name, and you decide to play poker with it. Well, you can play 1-cent games. That gives you 100 buy-ins. Again, nobody wants to take it slow. They want to get rich quick. They want to put their $10 in, and they want to buy into 10-cent tournaments and hope to do it. And, you may. Sometimes you will. Sometimes you'll do great. Sometimes you won't. I'm trying to figure out. This is a bit of a mess today. This setup is a bit of a mess. I'm sorry about everyone for the bit of a mess. We'll probably cut it short today. Because, even though I do go to the gym, it's kind of hard to even hold up a 1-pound phone. So, have better bankroll management. I wrote an article just for you over at jlpoker.com/bankroll or jonathanlittlepoker.com/bankroll, whichever one you want to type in. That will explain to you how to fix all of these problems that you're having. All right, when you started learning poker, how many hours per week did I play on average? When I first started, I was playing 1 hour per week after Magic the Gathering tournaments. When I decided to take it seriously, I played maybe, 20 hours per week, but I was studying another 20 hours per week, reading all the books on the market. And then, after that, I started playing about 40 hours a week, in addition to going to college and working a full-time job. I was playing a lot. What's a good ROI in today's sit-and-goes? It depends on the buy-in level and your opponent's skill level. Right? William, that question is not a good question. Figure out why that's not a good question. That would be very, very beneficial. Do I have a 1-pound iPhone? I don't know. I was estimating. I'm guessing it's more than half a pound. Do we think an iPhone's more than half a pound? It has to be more than half a pound. All right. What's the best... Which game is best to play? Cash 5% rake with a 10 big blind cap? Ugh. Or 10% 5 big blind cap? Ugh. I don't know. Do the math. These are all math questions. Listen, I'm not going to tell you the answer to math questions in this stream. I don't have a paper and pen in front of me. And I don't have a sample size in these games. Figure out which one takes more on average and do it. Just sit there and play for 8 hours in each game and count. It's not hard. These are not hard things to solve. You all need to not be lazy. I am not your Google. Consult Google, and if that doesn't give you the answer, do it yourself. Nowhere near half a pound. Okay. Someone look up the weight of an iPhone. iPhone 10 while we're here. iPhone X if you want to use Roman numerals for fun. All right. Who's my favorite Magic player? A guy named Rich Shea. Rich Shea is by far my favorite Magic player. I also like Luis Scott Vargas. Those are my 2 favorite by a mile. Because they're fun, they're witty, they're good, etc. Fernie says, 0.2 pounds. Well, I guess I'm weak. To be fair, if you just try to hold your hand out like this, hold your hand out like this, and try to do it for an hour. See if you can do it. Maybe you can, maybe you can't. And you have to do it without being shaky. Because if it's shaky, you might as well turn it off. All right. let's see. I mean, hooded. I'm not asking how much a random iPhone weighs. I'm asking how much my iPhone with a case on it weighs. And to be fair, it's a little case. It's clearly a tiny case. I'm a big fan of thin cases. Or no case. I would prefer no case. I was told that iPhones were designed to have no case on them. And I actually believe that. And then I just carried this iPhone X around for a while, and it got scratched to hell being in my empty pocket. I'm not sure how that happened. Obviously, some people would say, oh, you have little buttons on your jeans. Yes, I know this. It did not touch it. Gang says, yeah, Pocket Kings on the button. Wait, on the button. Big Blind makes it 1,600, which is a 3-bet. This is a horribly written hand history. I explain how to write hand histories at jonathanlittlepoker.com/notes. It seems like a lot of people have just not thought out the right way to communicate. It's very important to communicate in a very clear, concise way. And also your hand. You have Pocket Kings. Yeah, go all in. You have 26,000 chips, which is presumably, I don't know, 100 big blinds, 300 big blinds, I don't know. Yeah, don't fold Pocket Kings. Maybe don't blast it in, but you should not fold Pocket Kings. Obviously don't fold Kings. If you're folding Kings, you're folding everything. The only time you can fold Kings is when you are convinced your opponent is horrible. Horrible. If you're trying to fold Kings pre-flop, you're saying, I think my opponent is literally the worst type of player that I will demolish in the long term. John says 0.013 pounds? No way that's accurate. No way this thing is 0.013 pounds. 1/10 of a pound? No way. I will not buy that. Maybe it's true. Maybe it's true. I'd be shocked if it's 1/10 of a pound. Do you really think old people, 60 plus, can play well for the entire main event? I suppose you mean the World Series. Depends on if they're good. The problem is that most older people are not that good, right? Why are they not good? Because if you think about it, older people have not had a significant portion of their life that they could devote exclusively to poker. Every person who is roughly my age, who is very good, spent their 18 to 24-year-old time playing only poker, doing only poker, etc., etc., etc. Most older people have jobs and families and lives, and they cannot devote 14 hours a day to poker every day like I did. Right? So they're going to have mistakes in their game. If you have a lot of mistakes in your game, in theory, you're just never playing well. I mean, you can play the best of your ability, but you're still just never playing well. I definitely think that older people can learn to play well and can play well for a long period of time. If anything, I think older players can probably play better for a long period of time than most kids. iPhone X weighs 6 ounces. There we go. That seems like a real answer. Thank you. So anyway, yes, I definitely think people can play well for the entire main event, but you have to make sure your playing well strategy is also good, right? If you play horribly, but you play the best horrible game you can play, you're still going to lose, right? The person who asked this question about kings said, you got it only with kings, the opponent had ace-jack, and there was an ace in the window. It never matters what the board runs out. All that matters is did you get your money in good? And you did, so you should be happy, whether or not you win or lose. What would you say is the best way to navigate my training site? Well, go to exactly what you want to go to in it. However, Kevin, I would suggest you first go to the beginning, the oldest homework question, and also go to the oldest quiz. Go back to the oldest ones and work your way forward, because quite often the homework questions start rather easy. Like I know the first ones deal with pre-flop ranges, but then we eventually get to much more difficult scenarios, so you need to make sure you understand that first. So start at the beginning and work your way forward. That's the way you should consume almost all content. For example, like, say you're reading a book. You probably shouldn't jump to page 300 and start reading. You should probably start at the beginning and go forward. Same way with training sites. You probably just should not jump right in with whatever we're currently doing, unless you're already very, very well-versed in how we do things. You know, trying to learn game theory optimal strategies and then adjusting to take advantage of whatever your opponents do wrong. Hooded says, old people tend to not play online, and online players are better than live players in general. That's true, but I mean, think about all these things, right? All these things you're saying. There's no reason that an older player cannot play online and also cannot put in a lot of time. If they have nothing going on in life and they're willing to essentially act like a young kid, they can get good. There were a few older players who did quite well back in the poker boom. They were often like hedge fund managers who just closed a fund who wanted to get into poker. And they're smart. They're with it. They're willing to sit there and grind. They probably have all of their wits about them, just like they were a 21-year-old kid. And they're still doing great. I mean, thinking of Cliff Josephey right now, right? Cliff Josephey was a sit-and-go crusher, and he was probably 40 years old then, right? Now he's probably 50, maybe a little bit younger, maybe 45. I don't know how old he is. And he final tabled the main event a few years ago. And he won another bracelet. So, I mean, that's a good example of a quote-unquote older guy. He's not 60 plus, I understand. But he is still a slightly older guy, and he's crushing it. Because he's good, right? He's good. He devoted part of his life to poker. Most people, though, can't do that because they have a life. Any advice to a 21-year-old grinder? Find a game you can play. Find a game you can beat. Play at a time. Study a lot. That's it. That's all you need to do. If you're excellent at poker and only play high-stakes cash games 5 to 6 times a week for 2 hours per session, what if that's what you are? What about if that's what you are? Do you think people who haven't read any poker literature are crazy? No, I think they're lazy. Lazy and crazy are different. How many bluffs should you have in an under-the-gun opening range? It depends on what you quantify as a bluff. Is 9-8 suited a bluff? No, it's a semi-bluff, right? Semi-bluffs have plenty of equity. How do I recommend a tight player actually pull the trigger? You have to understand what's good. You have to understand every time you do not run a bluff that is a good bluff, you're losing money. You're taking money out of your pocket and giving it to your opponents. So, understand that plays are plus EV. Bluffs are profitable. And if you don't make profitable plays, you are lighting your own money on fire. Do I ever think poker will be legalized in the United States? I definitely think it will. It might be in 100 years, but I definitely think it will. What should be your profit every time you sit down? You cannot make profit consistently on a regular basis. You're going to have swings. Please understand, you're going to have big swings in poker. Poker is a gambling game, just like all other games, and you will have variance. It's not like where you go to work at McDonald's and you make your $10 an hour and you go home and you have $80. It's not what poker is. Not at all. You're going to have sessions where you lose 500, you're going to have sessions where you win 500, and you average them out eventually to where hopefully you're profiting. Flopping says 54 is a good age. 54 probably is a good age. What is the cost of me as a personal coach? I charge $300 per hour for coaching, but I am tending to not do that unless I know the person anymore because I like helping lots of people. Right now, we're helping 1,000 people. I know 1,000 people are going to watch this, but I'd rather spend my time helping 1,000 people for free or one person for $300. Well, I'd rather just help everyone for free. How much of a role does intelligence play on being a successful player? I think the willingness to learn and the willingness to adjust and the willingness to be open-minded and the willingness to follow through with a plan are very, very important traits. I guess that supposes you have to be able to develop a plan and whatnot, so I guess you have to be at least somewhat intelligent. That said, if you're like really not smart, but you're playing with people who are just not even as smart as you, you're probably still going to win. With more people defending the big blind, is there merit in reverting back to larger opens? Yeah, definitely. Will I be doing any seminars when I come to Vegas? I did some in the past and they were not very profitable because usually we ran them during the World Series and they charge a ton for rooms during the World Series and it's just not worth it. Also, I have stuff to do during the summer. What's the best piece of advice for someone starting out grinding 1-2? Figure out how to beat it and play it a lot. All right. Panda is making fun of my hair from 2009. Yeah, that sounds about right. What's a good ratio of playing to studying? Depends on what you're doing in your life. Let's see. Did I read the Grinder's Manual? I did not. How do you stay playing your A games, especially in a long tournament? You have to understand that as you play better and better, you will play closer to your best almost all the time. Because you understand that playing poorly just loses money. So you make sure you're playing to the best of your ability all the time. And you also know how to play well. And once you really know definitively what is good, you will not do anything that is definitively bad. Right? Like with pocket aces under the gun, you know you're supposed to raise it. So if you're supposed to raise it... Oh, my baby's crying. If you're supposed to raise it, you're never going to limp it. Right? It's just common sense. And eventually you'll know definitively on the flop which hands you should continuation bet against a good player, against a bad player, against a calling station, against a maniac, etc. And once you know something is good, you just won't do it wrong. But it's really hard to know what is good in poker. A lot of people think they know what's good, but they don't. They're just assuming. And that's where people get themselves in a lot of trouble. Topher says he's happy I use my baby in my videos. Good. How do you improve endurance? Get in shape. Learn to study for a long time. Learn to play for a long time. And learn to have a strong body. Do I think opening 9s to 7 is a bluff? No. No hand preflop is a bluff. Get that out of your head. Trying to say this hand is a bluff doesn't make sense. Bluffs essentially have no equity. Does not pocket 9s to pocket 7s have equity? Yes. So it's not a bluff. It can be a semi-bluff, but don't try to quantify it. It doesn't even matter. That pre-flop, you should not be saying I'm bluffing or I'm value betting. I mean, obviously when you like 4-bet all in with ace-jack, you're clearly bluffing. But even then, you have equity. All right, let's see. How do I study poker? Oh my god, all sorts of things. At this point in my life, I watch a ton of training videos, and I outsource GTO study to people who have time to do that. Let's see, we had a long back and forth on Twitter one day. Then you got a hold of my book. It's been really influential. Well, good. I'm glad that you enjoyed the book. That makes me very happy to hear. I try to write a lot of good content for you all. I try to make a lot of good content for you all, and I want to help. You know, if you all want to succeed at poker and get better at poker, I want to be a resource that helps you do that. Do I think winning players need to study? Yes. Also, if you're winning at 1-2 or 2-5, most people aspire for more. They want to win $100 an hour instead of only $50 an hour. So you do that by getting better or by playing higher against tougher opponents. And to do that, often you do need to study. Now, there are a small portion of the player pool, there is a small portion of the player pool who is naturally good, right? The things they are doing naturally line up well with the mistakes that players are making at this moment. For example, there are a few players out there who said, yeah, I've never read a book, I've never studied anything, I just show up and play and it works. You know, good for you. You're in the 0.01% of players. Very few of those players make it to the high stakes because they have gigantic holes in their game. And, you know, they can do well in the small and medium stakes. Because the people they're playing against also don't study, and they're also bad. So no one's studying, so the person who naturally has the best strategy wins. Also, a lot of the time, people's natural strategies that win are really just exploiting the mistakes that the opponents are also naturally making. So let's say your opponents fold too much on the river, let's say, and you really love bluffing the river. You just love bluffing the river. Naturally, right? This is how you roll. Well, if that's how you operate, then you're just going to crush your opponents. Even though you're not really doing anything right, you just have accidentally exploited their tendency. You usually blind out because you're a tight player. Any suggestions? Don't be so tight. Read my book, Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. Again, it seems like a lot of the questions you are asking are very, very low level. Like, for example, you get in with kings and you lose, you should be happy. You should be happy when you get in with kings and you lose to ace-jack. A lot of people don't get happy when they lose, but losing doesn't matter. Winning equity is all that matters, and you want equity. So what you need to do is you need to study. Get my book, Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. It will be very, very helpful. Antonio says he's never read a book, but he uses the solvers. Yeah, okay, sure. I mean, it's like, yeah, you don't have to read a book. Just use all the solvers and know all the best players in the world and outsource all of your work to the best players in the world. You don't actually have to read books. You don't have to watch training videos. You don't have to do anything, really. You just have to make sure you get the knowledge that is required into your head somehow. Let's see. Good. Do I want to talk about anything else today? I was told to keep these to 30 minutes, by the way. Why don't you all let me know? Send me an email at support@jonathanlittlepoker.com and let me know if you want this show to be 30 minutes or an hour. I was told by a few people to make it shorter so that people can consume it every day because an hour is too much. But I also understand that some people only want to watch from 9:30 till 10. So I don't know. Am I posting these to YouTube? Consult Google, it'll tell you. But the answer is yes. I absolutely am posting these to YouTube and Twitch and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram, all of that. Everyone here says they like an hour. Problem is, with an hour, is that I have stuff to do. For example, I have a call today at 10 that I need to do a little bit of research for first, right? That means I can't do an hour. Since my wife is a lawyer, do we get into really big debates over conversations? Not really. My wife and I have mostly the same views, I suppose, and we're both reasonable humans. Do not assume that lawyers must be argumentative. Some are and some aren't. My wife was on the debate team, and she does get frustrated with me because I do not present arguments in the way that she thinks is ideal. Quite often I'll just forget to give some important information, or maybe the logic does not line up properly in her mind. So that is an issue. And usually then we just stop talking about it. And say it takes an hour for it to sink into the old guys. Yeah, that's funny. All right. Which of these books behind me gets pulled and read more than once? This book, Angel, back here. It's on angel investing. That's something I've been doing over the last few years, and I consult it a decent amount. The 4-Hour Work Week right next to it gets consulted a decent amount. The Daily Stoic right over here gets read every day. That gets read a decent amount. All right, let's see. You get into trouble late in tournaments with ace-9 to ace-5 offsuit, presumably, with 30 big blinds against loose openers. You hate folding pre. These are just bad hands. Fold them. What's the best book for a cash game player? Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em. I'm telling you guys, I discuss it all in that book. It's a 500-page book. It will teach you to play well, and it will teach you to exploit the mistakes your opponents make. What type of law does she practice? She practices corporate energy tax law. So essentially, when a lot of energy deals happen, there are tax credits that go one way or the other. Whenever, it's time to get going. Whenever someone builds a power plant, someone's financing it, often very cheaply, in exchange for getting lots of tax credits, and they have to figure out where the tax credits go. If they decommission a power plant, there's often tax credits. They have to figure out where the tax credits go, etc., etc., etc. Mindful Poker Girl, welcome. Hope you're having a great day. Goose says he's reading through Mastering Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em the 3rd time, and you pick up something new each time. Well, that's what happens with 500-page books. You tend to find something new every single time. Why not start at 9 and cut it off when the conversation dies? Because the conversation will not die. We found that I go the full hour. Well, Instagram only allows for 1-hour videos. And you all give me plenty of questions for an hour. The issue is that maybe an hour is not sustainable for me. Remember, I'm not a robot. I'm just a regular human like all of you. And I have things to do. And I don't know if I can devote 5 hours of my life to a show like this. But hey, we're giving it a whirl, right? What do I think about calling small raise sizes in the small blind with any 2 cards? Absolutely not. Small blind, you must be somewhat tight. Even getting good odds, you cannot profitably call min raises. Absolutely not. That would be a big mistake, and you will be lighting money on fire. You realize you're playing badly after you make a bad all-in call. What's a better exit strategy? Leave before you start playing poorly. What's a follow-up to my book on Small Stakes No Limit Hold'em? Probably... Do I have the book right over here? Here it is. You really want to get good. That's what you need. Expert, Heads Up, No Limit Hold'em by Will Tipton. A book that almost none of you have read, most likely. But this is essentially the Bible for all high-stakes players. They've all read this book, devoured this book. It's the best book on learning to play fundamentally sound game theory optimal strategies. That is how you beat good players. Would you say to play tighter when there's a straddle? Absolutely. Absolutely. What's wrong with 40 minutes? I mean, listen, I'm not going to go any particular amount of time, but I hate leaving when there's conversation going. But again, I just have things to do. I think Negreanu is one of the best poker players. Yes, because he has fantastic results throughout his entire career. Is he like the top #1 player? Probably not. I don't know who the #1 player is. Is there an audiobook of this high stakes book? I do not think so. Believe it or not, most poker players do not want to sit and read a book for 20 hours in a box. There's a lot of I mean, I've recorded all my audiobooks, but most people don't have that dedication. Most people just want to write a book and forget about it. What makes Negreanu good? I think open-mindedness is probably one of his strongest traits. He is willing to admit when he's wrong, and he's willing to search out experts to figure out the solution to the problems. So, for example, he realized he was getting crushed by the kids recently in the very high stakes games because he's not playing GTO. So, what does he do? He hires a coach, as any smart person would do. You outsource the work and study to someone else, and then they give you the answers. That's what you do. You outsource it. You know, you pay the guy whatever, however much he wants, $500 an hour, $1,000 an hour, and they're going to teach you how to win. So he does that. Also, he's willing to experiment. He discussed how when he was trying to move up as a kid, he would just constantly try to move up and go broke, trying different things every single time. Eventually, figure out what worked and move forward. Is it ever okay to flat ace king on the button against a laggy player? You probably just want to 3-bet it. Obviously, it's fine. It's better than folding. M Action says, what's the third book? I don't have a third book. Do you play GTO? That's the goal. The goal is to play Game Theory Optimal against good players and to play very exploitatively against bad players. When people have obvious mistakes, the easiest way to beat them is to take advantage of those mistakes. But as your opponents play better and better, they still have mistakes in their game, but you will not be able to detect them, especially in live poker. Because you don't have a big sample size, and also, let's say they continuation bet the flop on average, or in a particular spot, GTO is to continuation bet it 65% of the time, but they continuation bet there 68% of the time. You're never going to figure that out. But if you just play perfect GTO against them, it doesn't matter what they're doing. If they're continuation betting 68, and they're supposed to be playing 65, you're going to win. If they continuation bet 62, and they're supposed to continuation bet 65, you're going to win. So you don't know what they're doing wrong, but you will still beat them. And that's really the power of playing fundamentally sound, is that you don't even have to know what they're doing wrong, and you will win. But if you do know what they're doing wrong, you should clearly adjust, right? If the guy's continuation betting just a tiny bit too much, you should be bluffing a tiny bit more. And that presumes they're not going to adjust to counter-exploit you. If they adjust to counter-exploit you, well, then that's a very big problem, because then you're just really lighting money on fire. If you play an exploitative strategy, and you're wrong about 30% of the time, and your opponents adjust to take advantage of you, they're going to demolish you. Like, they absolutely crush you. And that's the problem with a lot of exploitative strategies, is that people think they know something, but they don't really know it. They're just guessing. Have I played MTG Arena? No. I only play Magic Online. I only play Vintage and Legacy. Mostly Vintage, though, and I don't think they have Vintage on MTG Arena. What are you learning? How are you learning GTO with the programs? I outsource it. I am part of a poker backing program called the Poker Backing Group. They back a lot of online players, and they outsource this work to game theory experts. My go-to guy is Michael Acevedo. Check him out. I'm helping him write his book, Modern Poker Theory. That's going to explain most things about GTO that you need to know. The best program on the market right now is called Munker Solver. You're going to need a supercomputer to run it. It is basically like Pio Solver, except for it runs multi-way situations instead of heads-up situations. A lot of people think game theory only applies to heads-up, but that is just not right. You can still develop the best possible strategies. And that is what Munker Solver does. You play it online nowadays or mostly live. Whenever I travel out of the country, I play a bunch online. And whenever I'm in America, I play only live. What's the title of the book, please? This book is called Expert Heads Up, No Limit Hold'em. Don't be fooled by heads up in it. This will teach you the ideas behind game theory optimal play. You say, yes, MTG Arena is a bit casual. If you know one thing about me, it is that I do nothing casually. I do everything hard, and I think it's ideal. What's the name of the solver? Munker, M-O-N-K-E-R, like a monkey. Munker Solver. Is Volume 2 good too? It is. You definitely need to read Volume 1 first. Remember, whenever you're consuming any sort of content, go back to the beginning and work your way forward, if at all possible. What I would suggest all of you do is consult YouTube and consult the various training sites for people who use game theory optimal strategies and try to learn it from them, because you don't have time or the supercomputer to run these programs. It takes a long time to go through all of this, to figure out the right answers to a lot of problems. And I understand that's not for the casual person, so you need to outsource it. And you can outsource it. A lot of the training sites, so people just be straight up going through it. In my site, I don't do it because I know that's not so accessible to most people, so I try to present a simplified version of GTO. For example, like in a lot of spots, you're supposed to bet with a hand, I don't know, 60% of the time and check it 40%. I don't really advocate that so much. We instead try to look at your whole range and then break it down in a logical way. Like maybe you're supposed to bet your ace high flush draw 30% and your 7 high flush draw 70%. Just bet the 7 high one every time and bet the ace high one never. And it kind of fixes that problem in a way that's actually implementable. I understand that most people are not professional poker players and they are not super geniuses. I get this. I'm not a super genius. I cannot memorize a million stats or a million numbers for every single situation. So you learn a strategy that is implementable. It's very, very important. And if you are slightly off GTO by 2 or 3%, that's fine. You will be way better than almost everyone. Let's see. You see behind me Omaha books. How was my experience with that type of game? It's a different game. It has nothing to do with No Limit Hold'em. Oh, it really is time to go now. Pot Limit Hold'em has nothing to do with No Limit Hold'em. It's a different game. What are my thoughts on RYE? Rye is a kind of grain, I believe, and it makes very good whiskey. All right, that's going to be it for today. I have to go. I have a call I have to prepare for. We'll be back tomorrow, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. We'll probably go for about 30 or 45 minutes. We'll see. We'll see how this goes. I can't sit here all day. I know a lot of people are used to streamers who have literally nothing going on in life, and they can just sit there and stream all day, every day. That's not me. That's why I sort of abandoned the idea of streaming on Twitch, because I have stuff going on. Sorry, I have stuff going on. We're a busy man. I make training sites for you all. I produce books for you all. I can't just sit there and play games all day. It would be nice to be a kid again. It would be really nice to be a kid again. But now I'm an adult. All right, have a good day, everyone. I'm sharing on Instagram. I shared it. I've officially shared it. Goodbye. I won't have a phone in front of your face tomorrow. I'll figure out how to make the tripod work. Have a great day. Enjoy yourselves. See you tomorrow.